Good morning, everybody. My name is Wooters, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at NextIT. And today I'm going to be talking about our human emulation technology. I want to start off just by giving you a brief introduction to NextIT, who we are. We're a small company, probably a lot of you haven't heard of us. We are in Spokane, Washington, which is from Philadelphia. It's about 2,100 miles to the northwest, which when I was making this map, I learned that if you go 2,100 miles from here to the southwest, you end up in Aquapulco. So if you ever have a choice about which direction you're going to go. Spokane, Washington is, again, where we are located, and we have about 100 people at our company. From a high level, our vision is to change the way the world interacts with technology. Let me just mention a few of our customers. One of our oldest is Sergeant Starr at the U.S. Army. We've got several others pictured here. I was going to do a demo of a couple of them, but they're actually available on the web. So you can go to Alaska Airlines and chat with Janet, or you go to Continental Airlines and chat with Alex. You can go to the goarmy.com website and chat with Sergeant Starr. Spike over there at Gonzaga University. So these are all available, publicly available. A number of the virtual employees that we create are not visible to the public. They're used sort of internally in companies and so forth, but several of them are. Let me just mention, why do companies buy our technology? The primary motivator is cost savings. Call centers are expensive, right? If a person picks up the phone and calls into Aetna to ask a question, it costs them a lot of money. The estimates vary, but somewhere on the order of $6 to $12 a call. Chatting with something on the web is a lot cheaper. So some examples of how this has saved the company's money. Anne at Aetna, now she is on the registration page for Aetna. So when your company signs up to get health insurance from Aetna, you have to go to Aetna to sign up for your online account. Turns out a number of people can't make it through that process online. So they end up calling in. There's a number that's right there for people to call and help get registered. So by putting Anne there and putting little point of need launch points for Anne, in other words, little question marks next to the input boxes, where if you click on one of those question marks, it pops Anne up. After 5 months being on their website, Aetna saw a 29% drop in their calls coming to their call center. So this is big money to these companies who are spending a lot of money, millions of dollars on calls in their call centers. So there's real value in that. Alex at Continental Airlines, one of her busy days, she answered over 100,000 questions, which would have translated into 500 to 750 call center employees. So there's big money in this. This is why the companies are doing it. A secondary reason why companies will buy this technology from us is increasing revenue. The best example we have of this is TED at TD Ameritrade. And the way that TED works is when a user logs into their Ameritrade site, TED will look at who they are, look in their account, and do, for example, go through a process where TED looks at their account and what they're signed up for. If their account is enabled for options trading, but they haven't made any options trades, TED will pop up and say, hey, I noticed you haven't made any options trades. Would you like to learn more about it? And this has significantly increased the revenue that TD Ameritrade gets. It turns out a lot of people, they just don't understand how to do options. And so by providing them a little bit of education, they end up doing it. So Ameritrade is very secretive about how much money TED has made for them. They look at it as a competitive advantage, and they don't really want to publish the results. And we run into this a lot with with a lot of our customers. They feel like if they divulge these numbers, they're going to lose their competitive advantage. So it's been a struggle for us as a company trying to get publicity and press out of these kind of successes. But they have told us that he's one of their best salespeople. So that's good news. So those are the two primary reasons why people buy our technology. I'm just going to quickly go through at a high level some of the features and technologies that we use. Overall, high level, our systems are goal-based and domain-specific, unlike a lot of the bots that you all are working on where the domain is sort of open, right? You have to emulate a human. That's very difficult. Our stuff is very pinpoint, very focused, and it's a mixed initiative dialogue system. In other words, either the computer or the user can initiate the dialogue, and then the system will react or guide you. So that's from a high level what we're doing. We make extensive use of context when we're interacting with users. So we know what web page they're on, who they are. If we have access to their account, we know that. The history, things that they've done, and so forth. This turns out to be an incredible help in things like disambiguation, right? If somebody asks something that's referring to a page they're looking at, you need to know what page they're looking at in order to answer that question. We have the ability to extract information from a user's input. So for example, if you're talking with Jen at Alaska Airlines, and you say to her, I'd like to fly from Cincinnati to Cleveland, she has the ability to figure out which of the words in the input were city names and which one was the destination and so forth, so sort of extract that out. That becomes very important also. One of our most important abilities is the ability to integrate with our clients' back-end systems. So for example, Merrill Lynch uses our technology for their financial analysts. So somebody calls into one of the financial analysts, and that analyst has a set of applications that they can use to answer customer questions. And that set of applications, there's about 100 different applications. They're wrapped in a Thompson container. So you can imagine for somebody who's just been hired by Merrill Lynch trying to learn which of those 100 applications did they go to get an answer for somebody who's calling them on the phone. That's a difficult problem. So we have one of our virtual employees there who the financial analyst can type the question into, and it will pop up the application that they need to use to answer that question. We have the ability to do multi-language input, although to date none of our clients have actually asked for it. They're interested in it, everybody's interested in it, but for a lot of them, the percentage of non-English that they get is so small that they haven't been able to justify the cost. And that could be just a function of who our clients are. We have the ability to do text-to-speech or pre-recorded voice for the responses. Okay, I'd like to talk just for a minute about motivation behind this technology. This is probably not something that many of you need to hear. I think everybody is well aware of the benefits of these things, but I want to present this just to kind of set up something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. So why do we want to use this sort of technology? Let me start with talking about some history, right? The evolution of technology. A long time ago, you had this device that you picked up and you dialed, called people, or you answered and somebody called you. So it was a phone, and its purpose was to talk with somebody. Today, what we have is a device which you can talk to people on, but you can also do your banking, check your email, right? The technology has evolved to a point where it's very complicated. On top of that, if you look at the phone, there are all these different user interfaces on the phone, right? Each person who develops an app develops a user interface for that. So even if you're talking about two airline apps, like the two top ones over in that right-hand box, they're different, right? So a user has to learn that interface. Now, user interface designers try to make them easy, but the thing is that you've got all these apps, you have to learn the user interface for all of these. So it's complicated. Now, along with the technological evolution, we have seen websites becoming the preferred user interface for companies, right? Companies want their customers, their clients, whoever, to use that website as the interface for the company. Websites, as I mentioned before, are cheaper than call centers. But now here's the problem. Why is it that the websites are so complicated? This is a serious question. Why is that? And I think the answer to that is that if you are a company designing a website, it's sort of like playing 20 questions, right? The user comes there, you're trying to figure out what it is they want. So, do they want to book a flight? Do they want to book a hotel? Do they want to change their flight? The company doesn't know ahead of time. And each customer that comes there wants to do something different, but they can't tell that to the website, right? The website's sort of this static thing that was designed before you ever got there. So businesses have to guess at what the customers are going to want to do. And companies have become very good at playing this game, right? They look at what people click on, they try to surface the most common things, so they're guessing at the majority. But the problem is that everybody's different. And so what the companies end up doing is they surface as much data as they can on this website, right? They want to serve everybody. And so they take all the stuff that they've got in their databases and they essentially push it at you through this website. It's backwards in a sense, but it makes sense that they would want to do that. It's sort of the common sense approach to expose as much as they can on their website. The problem with that, and this is not actual data here, this is my cartoon version, is that the stuff you want is very small compared to the stuff that the company has, right? When you go there, you want to do one thing. But because the company's trying to serve everyone, they push all this stuff at you. This is complicated. There's a lot of stuff to it. So, how do we find out what it is that people really care about? Well, people already know how to communicate, right? We start doing this from the time that we're born. We have this ability, right? It's a great interface. And when you allow people to ask for what they want in their own words, that's when you find out what they're really after. Oftentimes, a website will set up a certain framework, a conceptual framework, that matches what the website developer had in their head. But you as a user, when you go there, you have difficulty. You have to figure out how to map what you want onto what's being presented on the website. For example, how many of you know the names of the different frequent flyer programs for the airlines that you fly on? I don't know the ones. I just know it's a frequent flyer program, right? But the website will surface these names as if I'm supposed to know it. So when I get there, I've got to learn that, right? I've got to figure out exactly what they mean. And it takes time, right? Each time you go there, you study the website, figure out what you want. So the reason why companies do it the way they do it is that, and we all know this, getting computers to understand human language is hard. And when it's not done well, people don't like it, right? People will try it out, they'll ask a few questions. If it doesn't make them feel good, if the responses aren't adequate, they say, oh, this thing doesn't work, and they go back to the browser. As a little side note, one of the things that we've noticed with our implementations is that if they are sort of purely business and can't answer any what we call personality questions, what's your name and what do you like to eat, the users tend to lose faith in them. They don't believe the answers. So you need to have some amount of that real personality in there to make people feel comfortable with using it. Okay, I'm going to hurry along here. So I'm going to start talking now about human emulation and what it is that I mean by that. So from a textual perspective, this is how we define human emulation. It is essentially the spirit of the Turing test with a practical bent, right? So we're trying to emulate human communicative abilities for the purpose of facilitating an interaction between a human and a machine. And for us, that interaction leads to some benefit to the company, right? Either cutting costs or increasing revenue.